The alarm's sudden blare made Commander Gray jump in his chair. His 3 pairs of eyes blinked rapidly as he focused on the main screen of the Frontier Outpost station. The massive display showed a single dot moving steadily through the outer defense grid. Another primitive species stumbling into Council space, he thought, reaching for his morning drink. "Sir, you need to see these readings," called out Officer Reed from the scanning station. Her antenna twitched nervously as she sent the data to the main screen. "The vessel's hull is made of materials we've never encountered before." Gray set down his drink and leaned forward. The readings didn't make sense. The ship's armor was both lighter and stronger than anything in the Council's database. More concerning were the energy readings. They suggested weapons that shouldn't be possible for a ship that size. "Get me a visual," Gray ordered, his confidence wavering for the first time in 20 years of border duty. The screen shifted, showing a sleek, dark vessel moving silently through space. Its design was unlike anything they'd seen before. No wasted space, no decorative elements, just pure function. Multiple weapon ports lined its hull, and its engines glowed with a strange blue light. "Match it against the database," Gray commanded, his lower arms gripping the armrests of his chair. The computer worked for several seconds before displaying its results. Species unknown. Technology level. Unable to classify. Reed's voice shook as she reported, "Sir, the ship's energy signature. It's operating at maybe 5% capacity. These weapon systems, they make our best battleships look like training vessels." Gray reached for the emergency comm link to the Council. They needed to know about this immediately. As he activated the link, another officer shouted, "Sir, the ship is changing course. It's heading straight for us." The unknown vessel's movement was precise, almost graceful. It covered the distance to their station in minutes, coming to a perfect stop just outside their defensive perimeter. Gray noticed his hands were shaking. The station's defenses, pride of the Council's military, seemed pitiful compared to the weaponry their scans had detected. "Sir," Reed whispered, "they're scanning us. Our shields, they might as well not exist. Their sensors are going right through everything." Gray watched the main screen, waiting for any sign of hostile intent. The mysterious ship hung there, dark and menacing, yet making no aggressive moves. Its presence alone was enough to send a clear message. They were completely outmatched. "Get me the tactical analysis," Gray ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. The results made his blood run cold. The unknown vessel's armor could shrug off their strongest weapons. Its offensive capabilities could reduce the station to atoms in seconds. Even worse, their scans suggested this wasn't even a particularly large or powerful ship by the standards of whoever built it. The station's communication system suddenly crackled to life. Everyone froze as a clear, calm voice filled the command center. "Frontier Station, this is the TSS Thunder of Terra. We are conducting a search and rescue operation for missing colony vessels. Transmit any relevant information immediately." Gray's third heart nearly stopped. The ship's name meant nothing to him, but the way it was said, the absolute confidence in that voice, told him everything he needed to know. These weren't primitives stumbling into advanced civilization. This was an advanced civilization discovering what they had thought were primitives. "Sir," one of his officers called out, "I'm detecting similar engine signatures at the edge of our space. Many of them, much bigger than this one." Gray looked at the imposing vessel on his screen, its dark hull reflecting the light of nearby stars. If this was just a scout, just one ship of many. He opened a channel to the Council capital. They needed to know. They needed to understand. "Emergency Protocol 7, he transmitted, using a code he never thought he'd need. "First contact scenario. Unknown species. Technology level exceeding Council standards. Request immediate diplomatic response." He paused, then added, "And may the old gods help us all." The Thunder of Terra maintained its position, a silent guardian marking the boundary between everything the Council thought they knew and a future they couldn't predict. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Council's emergency meeting chamber had never felt so small. Ambassador Root watched the replay of the Thunder of Terra's message for the 10th time. The human captain's voice remained steady, almost friendly, but everyone in the room could hear the steel behind those words. 3 colony ships, Captain Walker's recording repeated. The Freedom's Journey, Hope's Landing, and New Dawn, each carrying 10,000 civilians. Each vanished in your space. We want answers. Root's scales itched as he looked around the chamber. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They all knew what had happened to those ships, but nobody wanted to speak first. The border defense logs called them unauthorized vessels and potential security threats. Standard procedure had been followed. But now, with that dark warship hanging at their border, those words felt hollow. We must tell them something, Root said, breaking the heavy silence. Their scans are already picking up debris. They'll find out soon enough. High Counselor Ash slammed his tentacles against the table. Tell them nothing. This is Council space. We don't answer to primitives who barely learned to sail between stars. A quiet laugh made everyone turn. Admiral Stone, their military commander, stepped out of the shadows. Primitives. That single ship could destroy our entire defense fleet. Our best sensors can't even tell what their weapons are made of. And their AI. He shook his head. It's been blocking our cyber attacks like we're children throwing pebbles at a fortress. The chamber's main screen suddenly flickered. The Thunder of Terra's AI had broken through their best security like it wasn't even there. Captain Walker's face appeared, calm but stern. Your time for internal debate is over. We've detected human technology signatures in the debris field near your outer colonies. Explain. Root watched in horror as classified defense reports appeared on every screen in the chamber. Records of the attacks, casualty counts, salvage operations, everything they'd tried to hide. The human eye had found it all. 30 minutes, Walker continued. Then we start our own investigation. Your cooperation is preferred but not required. The screen went dark. Root looked at the panicking council members and made a decision. We tell them everything, he said firmly. The border defense policy, the standing orders to fire on unknown ships, all of it. They already know. Lying will only make things worse, and admit our failures. Ash spat. Never. Ready the fleet. We'll show these humans. We'll show them nothing, Admiral Stone cut in. That ship hasn't powered up its main weapons yet. It's running on auxiliary systems, and it's still beyond anything we can handle. And there are more coming. He pointed to the long-range scans. Much more. Root stepped up to the main display, bringing up the images of the 3 colony ships. 10,000 people each. 30,000 lives ended because of paranoid policies and trigger-happy commanders. Now humanity had come looking for their people, and they'd brought the kind of power that made the Council's authority look like a child's game. He opened a channel to the Thunder of Terra. Captain Walker, he said, trying to keep his voice steady, we're ready to share what we know. All of it. No excuses. The human captain's response was immediate. A wise choice, Ambassador. Though I should mention, Storm, our ally, has already confirmed everything. This isn't about information anymore. This is about accountability. Root felt a chill run through his body. Of course they already knew. This wasn't just a search mission. This was humanity's way of introducing themselves to the galaxy. They weren't asking questions to get information. They were asking to see who would tell the truth. The Thunder of Terra's presence at their border wasn't just a threat. It was a test. And so far, the Council was failing badly. The Thunder of Terra moved through space like a predator, its dark hull reflecting starlight as it began systematic scans of nearby systems. Captain Walker stood at the bridge window, watching distant stars while Storm, the ship's AI, processed the massive amount of data they were collecting. Interesting. Storm's voice filled the bridge. Their technology isn't primitive at all. It's just inefficient. They build massive engines because they don't understand how to make small ones more powerful. Their weapons are huge because they can't make them precise. Walker nodded, studying the holographic display of Council space. Dozens of their ships were following the thunder at what they thought was a safe distance. They didn't realize that Storm was reading every communication, scanning every vessel, learning everything about their supposed superiors in the galaxy. They're scared, Storm continued. Their entire society is built on the belief that they're the most advanced civilization. Our presence doesn't fit their understanding of the universe. The captain turned as new data appeared on the main screen. Storm had found something. Debris from a large vessel, scattered across an asteroid field. The AI highlighted the pieces that contained human materials. Freedom's journey, Walker said quietly. Show me the weapon signatures that destroyed it. The data appeared instantly. Council energy weapons, dozens of them, firing on a civilian vessel that didn't even have its shields raised. The colony ship hadn't expected an attack. Why would it? Humans had believed space was empty, that they were alone. They hadn't known about the Council and its paranoid border policies. Ambassador Root's voice came through the communication system. Captain Walker, please, we need time to gather all the information about the incidents. Walker allowed a small smile. Storm had already found everything. Patrol logs, combat reports, even personal messages from Council ships bragging about destroying primitive invaders. But letting them scramble to put together their story was part of the plan. You have 6 hours, Walker replied. Meanwhile, we'll continue our investigation. He turned to his crew. Take us into the debris field. Full scan pattern. The thunder of Terra moved with impossible grace for a ship its size. Council vessels watched in awe as it maneuvered through the asteroid field, its sensors mapping every piece of wreckage. They had never seen anything like it. A warship that moved like a dancer. Storm's voice carried a note of sadness. Captain, I found personal effects. Photos. Children's toys. They weren't just colonists. They were families. Walker's hands gripped the command rail tighter. Humanity had spread to the stars looking for new homes, new beginnings. Instead, they'd found an empire of bureaucrats who destroyed anything they didn't understand. Sir, one of his officers called out, Council ships are moving to surround us. They think we can't see through their stealth systems. Walker didn't even bother looking at the tactical display. Storm, show them why that's a bad idea. The AI sent a pulse of energy through the debris field. Every Council ship's engine suddenly went dead. They floated helplessly as the thunder continued its work. After 30 seconds, Storm restored their power. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed them at any time. The fact that they hadn't was a choice, not a limitation. Captain, Storm announced, I've completed my analysis. The colony ships, none of them had a chance to send distress signals. The Council's attack pattern was designed to destroy communication systems first. Walker looked out at the debris field, at the fragments of dreams and hopes scattered among the asteroids. The Council would answer for this, not with destruction. Humanity was better than that. They would answer with truth, with justice, and with change. The thunder of Terra's engines glowed brighter as it moved to the next search grid. They had 4 more hours before the Council's deadline. 4 hours to find more evidence of a crime they had already solved. 4 hours to let the Council decide if they would face their guilt with dignity or force humanity to drag it into the light. Officer Pine stared at his datapad in horror. The young Council member had been tasked with organizing the defense records for Ambassador Root, but what he found made his stomach turn. The ships they had destroyed weren't advanced scouts or invasion forces. They were filled with families, with children, with dreams of new homes among the stars. In front of him, the records told a terrible story. The Council border fleet had attacked without warning. No attempts at communication, no peaceful first contact. The standing orders were clear. Destroy unknown vessels first. Ask questions later. The Council had murdered 30,000 humans because they were afraid of anything different. Through the station's massive window, he could see the thunder of Terra in the distance. The human warship hadn't moved for an hour, but its presence felt like a weight pressing down on everyone. Their scans swept through the station constantly, reading everything, learning everything. Pine's hands shook as he found more records. The Council had salvaged technology from the wreckage, studied it, tried to understand it. But human engineering was different. Not more advanced exactly, but smarter, more efficient. Where the Council built huge power cores, humans built small ones that produced more energy. Where the Council needed massive computers, humans had AIs that could run on systems the size of a datapad. The door slid open behind him. Ambassador Root entered, looking tired. "Tell me you found something we can use," the ambassador said. "Something to justify our actions." Pine looked at his superior, then back at the datapad. He had a choice to make. The right thing to do was obvious, but the consequences would be severe. "Sir," he said slowly, "I found the truth. And we were wrong." Root's expression darkened. "Be careful, officer. The Council's reputation. The Council's reputation is built on lies." Pine interrupted, surprising himself with his boldness. "We're not the most advanced civilization in space. We're just the most arrogant. Those colonists did nothing wrong. We killed them because we were scared." The station shook slightly. On the main screen, they watched as the thunder of Terra's sensors swept another debris field. The human ship's AI was methodically piecing together evidence that the Council was desperately trying to hide. "If we don't tell them everything," Pine continued, "they'll find out anyway. Their AI can read our most secure files like their public news. They already know what we did. They're waiting to see if we'll be honest." Root slumped in a chair. "The Council will never admit to this. High Counselor Ash is already talking about mounting a military response. He thinks if we destroy this one ship." A soft chime interrupted them. Every screen in the room suddenly activated, showing the same image. The thunder of Terra, but not alone anymore. Long-range scans showed more ships entering the system. Bigger ships, many of them. "Sir," Pine said quietly, "we're not dealing with primitives. We're not even dealing with equals. We're dealing with a civilization that's been watching us make the same mistakes over and over. They didn't come here for revenge. They came here to make us face what we've done." Root stared at the screens, watching more human ships appear. Each one was different, each design unique, but all of them showed the same efficient, purposeful engineering. No wasted space, no decorative elements, just pure function made beautiful through design. Pine made his decision. He copied all the files he'd found and sent them directly to the Thunder of Terra. A simple message followed. "I'm sorry for what we did. Some of us want to make it right." The response was immediate. Storm, the human AI, acknowledged receipt of the files. Then, quietly, it added, "Thank you for your honesty, Officer Pine. Perhaps there's hope for the Council after all." The Council chamber erupted into chaos as the long-range scans showed more human ships entering the system. High Counselor Ash's voice rose above the panic, demanding immediate military action. Admiral Stone stood silent in the corner, watching the tactical displays with growing dread. Each new human vessel was different, but each showed the same level of technological advancement that made their own fleet look primitive. "We can't fight them." Admiral Stone finally spoke, his voice cutting through the noise. "Look at their ships. The smallest one could destroy our entire defense fleet. The larger ones." He gestured at the screens showing massive human vessels emerging from light speed. "We never had a chance." Ambassador Root entered the chamber, Officer Pine following close behind. The young officer carried a data pad filled with evidence that would destroy the Council's carefully maintained image of superiority. Root took his place at the speaking platform, his scales pale with stress. "The humans know everything," Root announced. The chamber fell silent. "Their AI has accessed all our records, The colony ships, the standing orders to fire on unknown vessels, the lies we told ourselves about protecting our space. They know it all. High Counselor Ash slammed his tentacles on the table. Then we have nothing to lose. Launch everything we have at their command ship. Show them the might of the Council. The main screen flickered to life. Storm's voice filled the chamber, calm and almost gentle. Your entire fleet's targeting systems have been disabled. Your weapons won't fire. Your engines will only work for retreat. This is not a negotiation. This is a courtesy notice. The Council members watched in stunned silence as their military readiness displays all showed red. Their mighty fleet, the pride of their civilization, had been neutered by a single AI without firing a shot. Some of the Council members began to weep. Others stared blankly at the screens, their worldview crumbling around them. Officer Pine stepped forward, his voice shaking but determined. I sent them the truth. All of it. They're not here for revenge. They're here for justice. There's a difference. The thunder of Terra's captain appeared on the main screen, his expression stern but not angry. Your Officer Pine is correct, Walker said. We could have destroyed your fleet the moment we arrived. We could have bombed your worlds back to the Stone Age. But that's not who we are. More screens activated, showing the debris fields where the colony ships had been destroyed. But now the images were different. Personal logs, family photos, children's drawings, all recovered from the wreckage by Storm's careful scans. The faces of 30,000 murdered colonists looked down at the Council. These were not soldiers, Walker continued. They were teachers, farmers, engineers, families looking for a new home among the stars. They died because your fear was stronger than your wisdom, because your pride was more important than their lives. Admiral Stone stepped into the center of the chamber. What are your terms? He asked, his military training allowing him to focus on practicality even in this crisis. Justice, Walker replied. Accountability. Change. The Council will acknowledge its crimes. You will compensate the families of the dead. And you will accept human oversight of your military activities until you prove you can be trusted with power. The chamber erupted again, but this time High Counselor Ash's voice was notably silent. The old leader stared at the screens, at the faces of the dead, at the mighty human ships that could have destroyed them but chose not to. For the first time in his long life, he understood what true power looked like. It wasn't about the ability to destroy. It was about the wisdom to show mercy. Storm processed Officer Pine's data transfer in microseconds, analyzing every detail of the Council's crimes. The AI shared the information with Captain Walker, who stood silently on the thunder of Terra's bridge, watching the Council's mighty fleet drift powerless in space. Their weapons were disabled, their engines limited to retreat only, their proud civilization reduced to waiting for humanity's judgment. The evidence was damning. Not just the destruction of the colony ships, but years of similar attacks on other species. The Council had built their authority on fear, destroying anyone they saw as a threat to their power. The colonists had just been the latest victims, but they would be the last. Send it, Walker ordered quietly. Storm understood immediately. The AI began broadcasting the truth across all Council frequencies. Every screen, every communication device, every data terminal in Council space lit up with evidence of their leaders' crimes. The faces of the dead colonists appeared everywhere, along with their stories, their dreams, their lost futures. In the Council chamber, High Counselor Ash watched his life's work crumble. The carefully maintained image of benevolent leadership shattered as his own people saw the truth. Some Council members tried to flee the chamber, but Officer Pine stood at the door, his young face set with determination. We face this, Pine said firmly. All of us. We watch, we learn, we change. Ambassador Root nodded slowly, standing beside the young officer. Together they watched the evidence unfold on the screens. The Council's border fleet had attacked the colony ships without warning, without attempt at communication. The colonists never had a chance to surrender, to explain, to beg for their children's lives. On the Thunder of Terra, Walker received a message from Earth Command. More ships were coming, but not warships this time. These were rescue and recovery vessels, coming to properly honor the dead and salvage what remained of the colony ships. Humanity would remember its lost children. Captain. Storm's voice carried an unusual note of respect. Officer Pine's data includes locations of other species ships destroyed by the Council. Some are recent enough that survivors might still be found in stasis pods or escape craft. Walker's eyes narrowed. Launch search and rescue drones to all those coordinates. Full scan pattern. If anyone's still alive out there, we find them. He turned to his crew. Humanity's first act in this part of space won't be revenge. It will be saving lives. The Thunder of Terra's drones shot out into space, their advanced sensors searching for any sign of life among the Council's countless victims. Storm coordinated their efforts, processing the massive amount of data with ease. The AI had found something else in Pine's files. Evidence that some Council members had tried to stop the attacks, had argued for peace, but were silenced. In the Council chamber, the screen showed the rescue efforts beginning. The humans were showing them a different way to use power. Not to destroy, but to save. Not to dominate, but to protect. The younger Council members watched in awe as human technology, so terrifying in its military form, turned to the task of preservation and rescue. Walker opened a channel to the chamber. Your fleet remains disabled. Your weapons are cold. But watch what we do next. This is how a truly advanced civilization behaves. We'll help you find any survivors from your other attacks. We'll help you make amends. And then, maybe, we'll help you become something better than what you are. The Council members watched as more human ships arrived. Medical vessels, rescue craft, ships designed not for war, but for salvation. Their sensors were just as advanced, their technology just as superior, but turned to a different purpose. This, they began to understand, was true power, not the ability to destroy, but the choice to save. 1 month had passed since the Thunder of Terra's arrival. The Council chambers looked different now. The grand symbols of authority had been replaced with memorials to those lost to their pride. Officer Pine stood at the new central platform, no longer a junior member, but the first Joint Human Council representative. The rescue operations had succeeded beyond hope. Storm's careful scanning had found 17 survival pods from other species, hidden in debris fields or trapped in asteroid belts. The Council watched in shame as humans saved people they had tried to destroy. Each survivor's story added to the weight of their guilt, but also to their determination to change. High Counselor Ash had stepped down, along with most of the old guard. Admiral Stone now led the military restructuring, working closely with human advisors to transform the fleet from an instrument of fear into a force for protection. The Thunder of Terra remained in orbit, a constant reminder not of humanity's power to destroy, but of their choice to save. Captain Walker stood beside Pine at the platform. The chamber was full. Representatives from every Council species gathered to witness the formal changes to their laws. Storm projected the new articles of governance on the massive screens, rules built on communication, not fear, requirements for peaceful first contact, protections for developing civilizations. The human ships found something else in their rescue operations, Pine announced to the chamber. His voice was stronger now, confident in his new role. They found hope. They found that change is possible, that past wrongs can be fixed if we're brave enough to try. Walker nodded, looking out at the assembled representatives. The Council's mighty fleet now sat in orbital docks, being refitted with human safety systems and communication arrays. Their weapons remained, but they could only be activated after multiple species agreed there was a true threat. No more shooting first. No more fear-driven destruction. Humanity doesn't want to rule you, Walker said simply. We want to help you become what you could have been all along. Guardians of peace, protectors of the weak, teachers of the young. Your technology was never the problem. Your fear was. Storm's hologram appeared beside them, a gesture of trust from the AI. that had once seemed so terrifying. "The first joint patrol ships are ready," the AI announced. "Human and council crews working together, exploring space not to conquer, but to connect. To find others like those we saved, who might need help, who might have something to teach us." The chamber erupted in approving sounds from a dozen species. The younger council members especially had embraced the changes, eager to explore space with new eyes. The rescue operations had shown them a different kind of strength, one that didn't require destroying what they didn't understand. Ambassador Root, now serving on the new ethics committee, stood to address the chamber. "1 month ago, we thought a human warship had come to destroy us. We were wrong. They came to save us, not just from our enemies, but from ourselves." The thunder of Terra's presence had changed everything, but not through force. Through choice, through the power of mercy, through the strength to offer a hand to those who had once been enemies. Pine looked at the memorial wall, at the faces of the colonists whose deaths had led to this moment. Their loss would never be forgotten, but their legacy would be transformation. The council was changing, growing, learning to use its power not to dominate, but to protect. "The stars are vast," Walker said finally. "There's room enough for all of us. Room to grow, to learn, to become better than we are." That's what those colonists were looking for, not just new homes, but new possibilities. In their memory, we'll build those possibilities together. The chamber fell silent as Storm dimmed the lights. Outside, the first joint patrol ship lifted off, carrying human and council crew members into the unknown. Not to conquer, not to destroy, but to explore, to protect, and to prove that even the darkest moments could lead to light.